Hello everyone, and while we are waiting for the third part of episode 77 to come out, I decided to make another in-depth video about the character I personally miss a lot. And I know that you guys are waiting for his return too. I'm talking about PLUNGERMAN, of course. So recently I rewatched the whole Skibidi toilet series, and I found some really weird details about his story, which even changed my whole perspective about this character. So in this video, I'll not only tell you the whole story of PLUNGERMAN, but also explain to you what you actually missed about his persona, and why Boom said that we misunderstood PLUNGERMAN so much. And well, I think that I found an answer to Boom's words, but I must warn you that this information can really shock you. Okay, so if you really want to know everything that you could have missed about PLUNGERMAN and his true identity, then get your tea and snacks ready and prepare to watch this video to the end, because I saved the craziest info for later. Let's go! And be sure to also give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already, because I am making a lot of Skibidi content to entertain you guys in the moments when we all are waiting for the new episode to get released. Okay, so if you are subscribed now, let's continue. And I plan to go in the correct chronological order about PLUNGERMAN's story. So we're starting not from episode 45, but actually from the first part of episode 73. Because there we saw the earliest flashbacks of camerawoman aka Kathy, who worked with PLUNGERMAN even when both of them were humans. And in these flashbacks, we also saw how both of them were operating in the Alliance's army in the earliest episodes of Skibidi Toilets, even though those two characters weren't shown in that actual episodes. It happened so because Boom probably didn't think the entire Skibidi Toilet plot through when he was making his very first animations. And PLUNGERMAN and camerawoman characters didn't even exist at that time. But of course, as the plot of the series started developing further, Boom couldn't deny that Dave and Kathy were also fighting among the other Alliance's agents according to the series timeline. So he showed it to us while using camerawoman's flashbacks. Okay, so the very first time we see Dave happens in year 1985, September 16th. And it's being heavily implied that he, Kathy, and Mecha Scientist were working together in the same unit when all of them were still humans. The following words can be heard in the background. Attention Group C, please prepare for the experiment. And we already know that all the people present in this scene will get turned into cameramen later in the series. And that's why their scientific unit is called Group C. And although I had different theories about their unit, in the end, I came to the conclusion that all of these guys were working in the organization, which later meant to become the Alliance. And this particular facility must have belonged to the scientists of the Cameramen's race. So both PLUNGERMAN and camerawoman were working in the Alliance together, and knew one another for a really long time. Although I know that other Skibidi fans still have their own theories about Group C and how exactly it's connected to Alpha Hills, the secret agent, and to the picture that fell out of the mutant's pocket in the second part of episode 77. But to tell you honestly, guys, this is the topic for a whole separate video that I'll make after this one. And now let's go back to PLUNGERMAN. So Kathy calls him by his actual name, which is Dave, and asks him to turn to the camera to say hello. And it's obvious that she has some really warm feelings towards him. And at this point, it was officially confirmed by Boom himself that Dave and Kathy used to be in the relationships with each other. And by the way, this information is going to be really important later. And the way how Dave refused to follow Kathy's asking, and even kind of upset her, but then still turned to the camera and sneakily showed his thumbs up, tells me that this guy loves acting tough and edgy at times, but in reality, he's more ground to earth than he thinks. And then we see the process of the experiment their entire crew was working on, and apparently they discovered one of the energy sources that Boom was telling us about long time ago. How different races of the Alliance and also Skibidi and Astro Toilets were using different types of energy that powered up their cores. So it's possible that our team's discovery in this lab can be connected to that. The next time PLUNGERMAN appeared in this series, and he already was in his cameraman form, happened somewhere around episode 15, as it is obviously the same street. And you don't really remember, the events of this flashback are actually taking place in the moment when there was a large trap planned for Skibidi Toilets as means of revenge for episode 14. Because in that episode, a huge number of cameramen was hurt and destroyed by the reactive Skibidi Toilet who appeared out of nowhere. So this whole flashback occurs when our squad gets to the scene and investigates what happened. And we can see how this squad already consisted of camerawoman, PLUNGERMAN, Mecha Scientist, Lucky Cameraman, the red-shirted Big Cameraman, and even Simp, which means that all of these agents were well known to each other in their past. And it's possible that all of them were acquainted one with another when all of them were humans. And we know that the POV of the second part of episode 77 also knew Kathy when she was a human woman. So it's possible that this guy was part of their squad too, but wasn't shown in this flashback. We see how PLUNGERMAN just boldly walks towards the reactive Skibidi toilet, who's definitely about to crash him, while lucky cameraman just intends to save himself and run. And that makes me wonder, is PLUNGERMAN really that brave and badass? Or maybe he's almost stupid self-confident? Because trust me guys, this is not the last time we're about to see him doing something really silly in the battle. And it's shocking to me how we all didn't really pay attention to that before. And then we're moving to episode 23 when we see how PLUNGERMAN paid the price for his boldness in a form of a leg. So he's standing next to Mecha Scientist while leaning on a cane. And they are inside the same cameraman's laboratory where Titan Cameraman had been getting his upgrades for the first time. But we're looking at the process of it at the different angle in this flashback, and the timing is probably different too. And it proves further how PLUNGERMAN and Mecha Scientist knew each other before and even were pretty close as friends. And that could explain how PLUNGERMAN got his epic wheelchair upgrade after the events of episode 57. Okay, and then we see a flashback of not some particular episode because this is an exclusive camerawoman's footage. But based on the color of PLUNGERMAN's tie in this scene and the infected Titan speakerman roaming in the background, I can say that the happening events were taking place somewhere near episode 36, because PLUNGERMAN got his iconic black tie only by episode 45, and before that he had been wearing red tie only. Okay, and after this one flashback, we're getting back to our regular timeline. Because after the events of episode 36, we're jumping to episode 43, where we can see him sitting on a toilet next to his weapon, and Mecha Scientist and the black terracotta cameraman are also here, by the way. And in this episode, he and Mecha Scientist were the only cameramen from this squad who didn't start running away, but prepared for the upcoming fight instead. Which proves once again that he's a really bold guy, but you know what? He wasn't shown getting into actual fight afterwards, but only taking this brave posture. And these words may seem a bit strange to you guys in the moment, but as you'll keep watching this video, you'll understand why I mentioned it. And by the way, if you also wonder why I didn't mention episodes 39 and 40 as the earlier episode where PLUNGERMAN appeared, it's because it wasn't him who was taking a plunger from the ground, but other regular cameraman based on the white color of his shirt. But even if it was really him though, check out how the POV of episode 40 just gets pushed away like an annoying puppy and isn't even given a chance to fight, which is quite funny, but let's continue. So the next time we see PLUNGERMAN again happens in episode 45, and he's just sitting in the cover this time, and doesn't even try to engage in the fight between two titans. And this is also the first time when we see the secret agent on the screen. And based on PLUNGERMAN's pretty strange behavior here, I concluded before on my channel that his special role can be actually connected to observing the infected Titan speakerman and eliminating the parasite out of his body, and this could kind of explain the events of episode 57. But right now I changed my opinion, and let me explain why. The next time PLUNGERMAN shows up in episode 48, where Mecha Scientist was the POV at the time. He nods to him and then gets ready to fight a bunch of regular Skibidi toilets, but the actual fight wasn't shown to us once again. We only see how he flashes the last one of the toilets, and how he then dodges the Skibidi toilet with the saw on his body and doesn't even manage to help his friend, which leads to Mecha Scientist getting cut in two halves. And then we see him once again in episode 50 when he was slowly walking towards the giant Skibidi pouring lava out of his mouth. And yeah, that looked cool, I'm not gonna lie, but once again, we didn't even see him fighting any of these guys. It's Titan Cameraman who shows up and does all the dirty work instead. And you know what? At this moment of rewatching the series, I caught myself thinking, what if PLUNGERMAN was just some sort of poser all this time? And I mean his activities before entering the Skibidi bunker at the end of episode 67. PLUNGERMAN also appears in episode 51, where it's implied that he was sitting on Titan Cameraman's back while the Titan was handling all the big bad guys for him. And either PLUNGERMAN was actually helping him in some way after all, or he was acting just like the Titan's fan who wanted to take a ride. In any case, we didn't see him fighting once again, but only taking his epic pose with plungers. He does show more activity in episode 52, though, where camerawoman also shows up. He saves the POV while destroying the Skibidi with blades, but the rest of work gets handled by someone else as well, which is camerawoman, who shots all the Skibidi in the background with her distance gun. And do you remember how I told you that Kathy and Dave are officially in the relationship, and that Dave also looked pretty edgy back when he was human? Well, that got me thinking about something almost blasphemous, but I still couldn't help myself. What if Plungerman is actually not that good of a fighter, but Kathy just loves him despite his general attitude? I have no doubt that Plungerman is still a very important character who influenced the plot of Skibidi Toilet a lot. But man, what if we all were wrong about him being the best fighter of all time? And that's what Boom pointed us out to. That would be insane. And what's funny to me is how in the following 53rd episode we see Plungerman showing up once again, and then we are also getting shown his big cameraman wannabe, who acts exactly the same he did in episode 51. What if it was actually a meta joke by Boom all along? And Plungerman didn't do a damn about the UFO toilet here too, and it was Titan Cameraman who did the job for him instead. Do you start seeing a certain pattern here, guys? The other time Plungerman shows up doing absolutely nothing is in episode 55, and yeah, he also did nothing to prevent the Astro Raid and Skibidi Skull attack afterwards. When he really tries to do something is in episode 57, when he tries to jump on the infected Titan Speakerman and disable his parasite apparently, but of course he fails big time and gets almost destroyed. But that's alright, because TV Woman still chooses Plungerman over Simp Cameraman, who was left there to pass away. And I suppose TV Woman did that because Camera Woman was her friend, and Plungerman was Kathy's boyfriend. And to tell you even more, the friendship with Mecha Cameraman also helped Plungerman to get the newest and best upgrades on the basis of Glitch Toilet's technology, even though the guy did almost nothing on the battlefield before. Wait, so Plungerman is kind of Nepo baby? Nepo friend to be more precise. Guys, this is actually getting out of hand right now because what the hell? Okay, so Plungerman returns to the series in episode 63. And now he has a powerful toy, so he finally starts engaging in the actual battles with Skibidi mutants. And well, now I see why Lucky Cameraman was laughing at him, and this literally blew my mind. Although I must say that Lucky Cameraman is a professional coward on his own, so it's not really fair for Dave to get a critique from a guy like that. And the same can be said about episode 66, where Plungerman actually manages to slay a more or less powerful Skibidi Strider only because he has Glitch Wheelchair now. And check out how Speaker Woman literally applauds him for a deed like that, as if he was a toddler who finally learned how to walk. Man, looking at Plungerman at this perspective is actually pretty hilarious. Plungerman then tries to help the Titans and attack Skibidi Scientist's puppet in the second part of episode 67, but fails miserably once again, even though he had his Glitch Wheelchair at hand. So all that got me thinking. What if Lucky Cameraman wanted to prevent Plungerman from entering the bunker because, well, Plungerman wasn't ever really good at fighting, and he and the secret agent needed the best fighters of the Alliance in order to put Skibidi Scientists down, like the Dark Speakerman. But if that's true, then I must tell you that Plungerman definitely wasn't the weakest link in the infiltration squad, and that's why he and the Dark Speakerman managed to survive to the final end. And in the first part of episode 69, Plungerman finally showed some really good fighting too. And of course, it all went down to an end by the third part of episode 70, when he and the Dark Speakerman finally met Skibidi Scientist. But, you know what, guys? When I rewatched the whole fight between them, I realized that it was mostly the Dark Speakerman who did the most of the damage to the Scientist. So could it be so that the pawn the secret agent was referring to in his speech were actually the Dark Speakerman, and not Plungerman at all? Okay, but if Plungerman was not planned to get into the bunker at all, then why was he personally approached by the secret agent himself afterwards, and even told some really important information? So that all makes me think that even though Plungerman could have been not that brilliant of a fighter as we all previously thought, but he is still an undeniably important character of the Alliance. Because he and his brevity were more like a symbol that could easily inspire the whole Cameraman's army to keep fighting. And that's why Camera Woman also continued the tradition of using his plungers like a weapon in the fight. It's possible that she wanted to continue this tradition of inspiring her fellow comrades in this terrible war, and this idea seems to be really wholesome to me. And what do you guys think about this detail that I discovered? Do you agree with me or not? In any case, be sure to write your own opinion about it in the comment below, because I'm really interested in what you have to say about Plungerman. And that was all for today. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, hit the like button below, and also be sure to write a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube and Discord channels not to miss my new interesting videos. And that was me, ISOTOILET. See ya!